Okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Kaylee, and thank you for joining us on today's episode of Hannon Inside YouTube edition. On our YouTube edition, instead of recording live to our Instagram, we will be streaming to YouTube. Today, we'll be speaking with.
I'm Rachel. Hi, everybody. I'm Rachel Wen-Paloutzian, and I'm so happy to be talking with you today, Kaylee.
So happy to be talking with you too. How are you doing today?
Doing okay. Happy Lunar New Year. And now we are in February
Yeah.
of 2021.
Beautiful. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started with our questions today. First question: how did you become a librarian?
Right, that's such a good question. How does anyone become a librarian? So I work in archives and special collections, and I am an instruction librarian. So when I was in college, I was just like you. I was a student worker in the library. At the time, I was studying art history, and yeah, I needed a job, and I just chanced up on special collections, which was a pretty, mysterious, like hidden, unknown area in the library. Like most student jobs, I did shelving, and I guess I fell in love with the smell of old books and the leather binding. I can't quite tell if it's the book part or the leather binding part. The funny thing is when my professors find out that I work in special collections, they were like, "Oh, could you bring our class to visit special collections?" And it was kind of funny, and I was very intrigued because I ended up bringing my classmates in a class to visit special collections and checked out, the cool stuff there. And that really got me thinking. I was like, wow, how do we get to bring these materials to our students, to make them more available, to make people know about special collections more. So that essentially became, at a time I didn't know, a mission of my life. And I also got to, because I work in special collections, I got to learn about the material. So as a college student, I did some research with historical photographs and for my art history project. So from there, I was like, oh, I want to learn more about archives. And so I got my master's degree in library information science with a focus on archival studies. So essentially, I was trained to be an archivist, but I really was into teaching with this material. So now here I am at LMU.
Could you tell us a little bit about your job at LMU now?
Yeah. So I work in archives and special collections, in case some of our audience are like, where, what? That sounds cool. You may actually walk by the library. We have a physical place on the third floor of the library. And with real physical collections like artist special collections, we collect and preserve rare and unique materials. They are usually historical and cultural materials from different time periods. And we make these materials available to students. So for me, as all my colleagues in the library, we wear many different hats. So as an instruction librarian, I work a lot with professors to design and teach class visits with these archives and special collections materials we have at our new library. So it's a lot of fun because the possibility is endless because we have so many different materials and collections on topics. So it really depends on what the particular course is. We design activities with the different kinds of materials. So for example, we may be looking at historical pictures of LMU. We may be looking at documents of student lives from 1970s and see what's going on at the time on campus. Or we may be looking at a Buddhist manuscript that is handwritten and hand painted in Thailand. Or maybe postcards of LA. I know we talked about postcards before, one of our favorite things, LMU library. We could be looking at postcards that are 100 years old. So I guess my part, what I really love and enjoy doing is to come up with lesson plans and, think up and try out different fun activities to engage students in exploration of these materials. And students often comment seeing and touching these materials live and now in a virtual space, seeing these actual examples of materials created about particular topic and place and people really bring these ideas and the history alive. So I just love learning with students. So I'm a librarian. I'm also kind of like guide in this kind of journey of discovery together with the professors, with the students, and doing some sort of detective work to try to understand, hey, how did this object come about? How was it like to live in a different time through this subject, and how do we relate to them today? So because we have so many rare and unique materials, I feel like I can go on and talk about materials. So, I guess I would point out, because I mentioned postcards just briefly, that I am also the curator of the LMU postcard collections. And some of you know that LMU Library has one of very large postcard collections. We have more than 1 million postcards. And so my role as a curator, I help processing, like organizing, work with our student workers, assistants to process the collection. And also we actually continue to collect postcards. So I work with donors to, instead of just like everything comes, but to very strategically and very intentionally bring in postcards that we can use for student learning and also for research. Yeah, whew, that was a lot.
That's super cool. That's super cool stuff. The postcards, I absolutely love the postcards in our collection. So it's really interesting to learn about how they get there and how you choose them.
Yeah, sometimes students will ask, oh, what are your favorite collections? And I was like, I'm of course partial because I'm the curator of postcard collections. And it's also so visual. And, sometimes you have handwriting on the back of the postcards where you get to see what people are talking about. And you may also be shocked to find some kind of postcards like, whoa, that was made at this time, be completely surprised by what you found in archives and special collections.
That's really, really interesting. We can move on to our next question now. So, how do diversity and inclusion tie into your work?
That's a very good question. I wish I have a short answer. There's just so much work to be done for diversity and inclusion. It goes into what we collect, how we preserve them, what we teach in class, and how we engage the materials to enhance the diversity and inclusion in our work. So as an instruction librarian, I teach many class visits with rhetorical arts, which, as you know, is a foundational course that LMU students need to take. So I get to meet and introduce many first-year students into archives and special collections. And also rhetorical arts generally have a focus on social justice topics. So that works really well with some of the materials we have in archives and special collections. So for example, in some rhetorical arts class, students look at archival materials from Dr. Robert Singleton's personal archives and learn about his experience of being a freedom rider during the civil rights movement, and to learn about activism and also the struggles that people are going through as social activists. And students often are inspired to think about how they could do today to work towards social equity and justice. And other class, sometimes we look at, for example, we have another class of rhetorical arts students will look at advertisement postcards from the 1990s and 2000s and look at topics that came up at the time, like environmental crisis, the homelessness crisis, and also like topics like domestic abuse, and different range of social justice topics come up in learning with these materials. I like to encourage students, and I sometimes bring this up, and actually for everybody, to think about documenting and archiving as a form of social activism. So we are essentially thinking about collecting and archiving our experience to especially enhance and bring in materials that can tell the stories and experience of people from underrepresented communities, for example, because historically archives and special collections are more for like hidden and more elite and more guarded. And now I think more and more we need to fill in the gaps of where experience from marginalized communities may not have been documented before. Now we have a chance to go into the work and do it together. So I really advocate for that part. And what I think about diversity and inclusion is it's how we can continue to widen the access. The idea that I came up on when I was a student in college was, well, I would like more and more people know about it. That these wonderful resources in the library, not just like, well, we're here for you, but also to help through engaging with this material, students to gain the skills and also a sense of confidence, right? Like we all have been to a place where, yeah, it's there for you, but I don't feel comfortable or feel a sense of belonging in the space, then I wouldn't want to visit again. So this is kind of barriers we try to break down so that students, especially our new students, I also work sometime with elementary school teachers. So we bring in young students from 4th grades and 5th grades from local communities, from LAUSD schools to get hands-on experience when we were in person class visits, so that people know that these places exist, these materials are there for you to use, and also start to build some kind of skills and also confidence to feel, oh, okay, I can visit there and I belong there. So this is like in a kind of more extended way that try to break down some of these barriers that I've seen. Yeah.
So on that note, could you tell us a little bit about your work in Asian and Asian American studies?
Yeah, thanks for bringing that up. So another hat I wear. I am the librarian liaison to Asian and Asian American studies. Librarians have liaison areas to different departments, academic disciplines. So I work with the professors quite closely to build our library collection, especially with remote online classes happening now. I often work with professors to adapt some of the textbooks so that they're available as ebooks to make it easier for you to get to the textbooks. And so essentially I help build the library collection, both like the physical book collections that you get access to easier when we're back on campus, but also more developing more ebooks and also streaming videos and films and things like that. I also have a lot of fun teaching some of the class visits with Asian Pacific Study class. So one of my favorite is Asian mythology, where we get to work with these tiny little figurines called Japanese netsuke, carved out often from ivory or sometimes from wood, of showing different figures and stories and deities from mythologies coming out from Asian countries. So it's really a lot of fun working with this topic. I feel my job is very humbling because I'm constantly learning new topics, new materials, and I really do enjoy very much learning with the students in class. So we're doing like a lot of detective work together, like looking at the Japanese netsuke, for example.
That sounds like a lot of fun. It makes me want to take that class.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes.
So moving on to one of our last questions, what are some challenges you face while adapting your work to an online environment?
The biggest challenge for me is I miss seeing you. I miss seeing our students and professors in class. I miss, doing this hands-on, immersive experience with the physical objects. There are a number of different challenges, and my colleagues and I talk about it. We try to figure out ways to deal with these challenges. So one of them for us, because we have physical materials, these rare and unique objects, artifacts, and archival documents are physical. So one question is, how do we make this available, accessible online? So fortunately, LMU library the Hannon Library has been building our digital collection. So many of our materials like postcards you may find, might find on LMU digital collections or OLMU photographs and documents and things like that. They're available online. So funny thing is, before I was an instruction librarian, I was a metadata librarian, which means I was the one who create this description for the digitized materials so that you can search them and find them online. So fortunately, we have a very large amount of materials ready for students to explore, to use in class. But of course, not everything's online. And it's impossible to have all of our physical archival materials online. And so sometimes we would need to scan and photograph and digitize additional materials to bring them to students. So the other part is like the hands-on component, because our class visits learning with these artifacts is so interactive. So the other challenge for me as an instruction librarian is how to bring and translate these interactive experience in an online environment. So essentially, as a librarian, we all, not just me, but other librarians teaching in other institutions in the special collections, all face the same challenge. So we came together last year, like right after we went into remote instruction, to figure out, learn new tools. We share different experience and lesson plans and see what activity works. So I feel like now we are reaching a pretty good point. I like to play with different tools, and I know students in my class know we use Padlet, but my colleagues use other tools. So to bring different kind of immersive experience. So there's actually advantage in some way of working things online, because now with technology, you could see much more detail and close-up view. You're also more able to look at many different objects on one screen, literally on your screen, many different objects together. So you may be able to see things, new perspectives and things you otherwise wouldn't see as easily in person. So we've been looking ahead and thinking, well, I look forward to going back to campus as everybody. And I feel this hands-on learning, having the tactile experience with the artifacts is definitely irreplaceable. But learning online with these new tools we gain from this experience could be a very good addition to complement and enhance the learning. So yeah, usually it's coming to visit archives and special collections for students like, oh, it's a field trip, and I see it, yes, it's a field trip, let's have fun in our classroom. So now instead of going to a physical classroom for a time being, we have been basically bringing the classroom to students through virtual class visits and bringing the materials in digital formats to the students wherever you are in different parts of the world. So yeah, a lot of challenges, but I also see a lot of opportunities.
Oh, it's really interesting to learn how everything's evolving. I can't wait to see what libraries are like after this pandemic too.
Yeah.
Okay, last question. Is there anything you'd like to add? That about wraps up our time.
Well, I'm so grateful to have this opportunity to talk about my work and share more about archives and special collections with you. I feel like time has changed a lot since I was a college student, many years back. More special collections are offering, teaching and learning experience to students. And I still feel we are continuing, our work is ongoing. So as we continue to work to raise awareness and cultivate interest in learning and research with archives and special collections, I also want to extend a wider invitation to everybody at the LMU community. We're actually open to the public. But especially I want to extend our invitation to everybody in the LMU community to explore archives and special collections at the Hannon Library. I look forward to seeing many of you in virtual class visits, and I cannot wait to see everybody when we're back on campus. So thank you so much for talking with me.
Yeah, thank you so much for talking with us. It was really nice. And thank you to everyone watching. That about ends our episode of Hannon Inside Out. And see you guys next time. Bye.
See you later.